good day to you all. I don't know. I'm just giving her a little dance because that is what we do on a day we go live. Hello, 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 and welcome you, welcome you. I need to take a minute. Welcome. So happy to be here with all of you. As always, I'm always so pleased to be able to jump in here and have a conversation with each and every one of you in hopes that something that I'm saying might support you in your own journey. So I'm going to jump right into it. As you know, we have been covering a wide range of emotions. We started with shame and we are working our way up. In case you need a reminder, we are talking about the energetic output as well as the emotion itself. And if you recall, we started at shame, which was a vibrational output of 20, which is very low on the scale, versus peace, which is 1,000. Today, we're moving on to anger. We're moving up the scale. So I'm excited to dive deep into this one because I know a lot of people did express the fact that they do struggle with anger, that they do wake up in the morning feeling anger. And I want to help you as best as I can to transmute that. Good morning, Angel. We have our first guest here who's joining us. I'm so excited. She's right on time, and so am I. Okay, let's get started. We're chatting about anger. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you want to say hi, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to absolutely answer them. Apparently, I can't speak today, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, we're moving on to anger, and the reason I'm actually skipping one, we should be talking about fear this week, but if you recall, we talked about fear many moons ago here in one of our lives. So what I'm going to do is after this is over, I will actually put the link to the live all about fear in the comments so you guys can check that out. So I figured, okay, we're not going to do another one on fear. We've already been there. We've already done that. We're going to skip straight to anger. So anger has a vibrational output of 150, which means we're moving up the scale. We're not in our low vibrational shame spiral anymore. We're moving out of that. We're transmuting. We are transforming, and now we're at 150. So we're getting bigger and bigger and better, and we're getting up to peace of 1,000. Anyways, so let's move right along. Let's first up talk about why you might be here, why you might be attending this live today. Maybe you're like some of the people in the Facebook group that expressed, hey, I'm waking up with anger. I'm struggling with it. It's like seething. It's underneath the surface. Maybe, you're outwardly struggling with anger. Maybe that's part of what's happening with you. You're like, I can feel it in all of my bones. I can feel it coursing through my veins, and it's something you're struggling with, and you want to start to move through it. Maybe you're allowing anger to get in the way so much that it's keeping you from enjoying your life because you're just waking up angry instead of finding compassion and joy and gratitude and all of those things. So that could be another reason you've decided to join us here. If you've been feeling as though you've been holding on or harboring anger deep within you, again, maybe you've repressed it, maybe it's an outward expression and you're really struggling with identifying and believing you're an angry person, that's another reason you might have joined me here today. And as I said, if you wake up in the morning and the very first thing you feel is anger, I want to help support you in moving through that in a really healthy way. And if you're willing to start being honest with yourself and say to yourself, I want to surrender to this anger. I want to start embodying self-confidence, humility, gratitude, and tolerance. That's a really good reason to have joined me here today, and I'm thrilled to have you. So let's talk about a definition of anger, which, every time I do a definition, I'm like, should I do a definition? But you know what, for the sake of consistency, and so we're all on the same page as to what the American Psychological Association defines anger as, we're going to do it anyway. So I'm going to read it to you. The APA says that anger is an emotion characterized by tension and hostility arising from frustration, real or imagined, injury, real or imagined, from another person, or perceived injustice. It can manifest itself in behaviors designed to remove the object of the anger or behaviors designed merely to express the emotion, i.e. swearing. Every time I read one of their definitions, I'm like, who wrote this? I feel like it's a run-on sentence, but that's neither here nor there. So Very Well Mind says, anger is an intense emotion you feel when something has gone wrong or someone has wronged you. It is typically characterized by feelings of stress, frustration, irritation. Everyone feels anger from time to time. That is perfectly normal. It is a perfectly normal emotion and feeling to feel. But is it consistent? That's what I want to know. Is it turning chronic? Is it something that you're having all of the time? And I think it's important to note here when we're talking about anger, and some of you might agree with me, some of you might not, but anger has the ability to push you into action, meaning it can push you into doing something constructive, making change, doing something different, or it can drive you to inaction, meaning destructive behavior, where it can hold you back. It can prevent you from doing anything because you're stewing in the anger and you're not actually using it to catapult your growth, catapult your personal development. You're just letting it happen as opposed to allowing it to push you into something better. So, I mean, a lot of you, maybe some of you would think this, that nothing good can come of anger, but it can be transmuted and it can be utilized, and something good can be born out of it. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. So if you think about some of the greatest movements in the world, if you think about the civil rights movement, if you think about Me Too, if you think of Black Lives Matter, these are all movements that don't come from anger, but their roots come from anger, from injustice, and from a desire to make positive societal change. It's rooted in that. It's not built on it, but that anger and that injustice has pushed the people involved that created the movement into creating it, into bringing about education, into catapulting and moving society forward. So you see, that's a perfect example of how anger at its core can be transmuted into something that is constructive. So it evolves from the basis of anger, but it sparked action. And that's what I want to show you here today, that you can take the anger you're feeling and you can use it to move you forward as opposed to keeping you stuck. But when most of us think of anger, we think about resentment, frustration, victim mentality, keeping us where we are. And I want us to move above that. I want us to move beyond that, because there's something great that can come from anger. My brain is moving faster than my mouth, which typically happens. So, and when the thing is that when we allow anger to identify us, we start to self-identify with it. I'm an angry person. Think about the people in your own inner circle. Oh my God, they are so angry all the time. It's like not only you take on this identity of an angry, negative person, but the people around you then categorize you and label you as an angry individual. That's when you know it's starting to become chronic and you want to start moving through it. So let's talk about a couple of different forms of anger before we move on, because anger can be very ego-based. So again, think of all those people in your life that are consistently, perpetually negative. Like when you are around them, you can feel the anger emanating off their body. They're consistently angry at the world. They expect society and others to cater and bend to their will. And if this doesn't happen because their ego isn't being served, because they've then identified as an angry person, their ego isn't being fed what they need, so then they get frustrated. And when they get frustrated because everybody else isn't bending their will around them, then they get angry. And that's that outward expression. These people are typically people that are swearing all left, right, and center, that get angry at the drop of a hat. You never know when they're going to blow. That's an ego-based form of anger. And it becomes perpetual and it becomes addictive almost, because that, like I said earlier, it becomes part of your identity. So then you have anger as well that can be more disguised, meaning the person that is in your life, or maybe this is you, will come across as the protester and the appointed critic. And they feel like it's their job to criticize, to protest, to be the activist, but they're not doing it in a way that propels anyone forward. They're just doing it to remain angry, and they're not actually making any forward momentum. So it's internal, it's external. They are just the natural born critic, but it's kind of disguised anger because, as I said, they're not transmuting it. They're just complaining, really, is what ends up happening. And then you have the people that have repressed anger, meaning the individual, or maybe this is you, continues to push their anger down. And they'll say, oh, I'm fine. I don't have anger. I'm not angry. I'm not that person. But as they do that, as they repress, or as you rather repress the anger, it starts to boil. It starts to fester. It starts to make it so you become bitter and resentful. And when that happens, because you're not expressing anger in a way that is positive and useful and transformative, then you just end up snapping at one point, because you've repressed it and you've rejected that so much that then it moves to your shadow. And we talked about shadow work a number of different lives ago. And if you want to look for it, or if you want the link for that, I can give it to you. Just let me know. Because you reject being an angry person. So because you feel anger, you then reject it because you don't want to identify as an angry person, and you think you're not an angry person. So you're like, that's not me. I'm ashamed of that. And then at some point you blow, because you can only repress things for so long if you're not effectively communicating it, or not effectively working it out, sorting it out, and expressing yourself. So those are just 3 types of forms, just to kind of keep everybody on the same page. As a caveat, because everyone knows I love a caveat, anger is different for everybody. It's unique to everyone. It looks different for everyone. Everyone expresses it in a different way, or rather do not express it. So keep that in mind. What anger looks like for one person might not be for another person. So although you might not be an outwardly angry person, meaning you're negative, victim mentality, you're swearing, you're negative all the time, whereas that might be your expression of anger, it's not everybody's. So we can't categorize people or label things as one or another. We have to know that it's different for everybody. And anger is a normal human emotion. It is going to happen. It's going to happen to everybody at some point or another. It's all about how do you express it, how do you move through it, and how do you use it as fuel to propel you forward, as opposed to fuel on the fire, making it bigger. So that's just a few kind of little notes I wanted to get in there. So first up, I want to I want to talk about changing your perception of anger, because culturally we have been programmed to believe that anger is nothing but destructive behavior and serves no purpose. Like I've talked about a lot in this live already, and I keep doing that intentionally because I want to drive that home. But what if, this is my question to you, we simply haven't learned enough about the emotion and the positivity that can come through anger, or as a result of anger? So think about your school experience. And this always gets me going. When I think about school and the curriculum and what children are being taught now, maybe some of you have young kids now, and think about how much they're learning about the emotions of anger, sadness, grief, shame, guilt, whatever those things are. We're not really adequately being taught from very young age what these emotions are, how to deal with them in an effective way, and how to use them as a means to grow and develop. And this drives me bonkers. Like if children were just taught all about the emotions in a really, really amazing and positive way, if they all learned how to meditate, if they all learned how that they can create their own reality, imagine what the future generations would look like. But it's simply not in there. Somebody write a letter to the school board and tell them that they should include these things. Anyways. So with that being said, I wanted to share some of the ways that anger can actually alert you and drive you into action. So number one, anger can force you to change your life. So if you have gotten to the point where you have had enough is enough, your life has been stuck and stagnant for so long, and you're getting angry about it because you're frustrated that things aren't changing, this anger, when you have had enough, when it pushes you to the very limit, that pushes you to the very end, it will push you to start making changes. And they might be small to begin with, and that's okay. Small changes lead to big, big action. But that's one thing, right, that anger can do. And if you're not there yet, it means you haven't gotten angry enough. You haven't gotten angry enough with the status quo in life being exactly how it is for that long to propel you forward. But if we think about it, it can actually get you there. Anger can give you, number 2, anger can give you the freedom to speak your voice. If you are a person that consistently never speaks their mind and pushes their thoughts down and doesn't feel like they have the right to speak, or maybe the people around you have made fun of you for the way you speak, or have made you feel like you can't say anything, anger can actually make you feel like enough is enough. I deserve a voice. I deserve to speak my truth. Morning, Angie and Angel are here. 2 sides of the same name. Anyways. So anger can actually give you that freedom and push you to start speaking your truth when you've had enough. But again, you don't want anger to push you and push you and push you where you're snapping and losing your mind on everyone. No, we want you to feel angry to the point where now I want to speak my voice, because if I don't speak my voice, I'm going to keep being angry and I am going to snap. Number 3, anger can act as a messenger, notifying you that there are other emotions within you. It could be sadness, shame, guilt that need to be addressed within you. So anger can actually be like your body being like, heads up, there's something going on in here. There's something going on within you that needs your attention, that needs you to come and address it. So it can be an alert, like an alarm system. Anger can be fuel. This is number 4. I always think about, and when I wrote this one down, I was thinking about like, you like a mom, for example, like becoming a mama bear, if something's happened to their child, or something's like the strength that can come from that, right? Like imagine any situation, you're like, you become enraged and all of a sudden you have this incredible strength you didn't even know you had. It becomes your fuel to jump into action. Your adrenaline heightens. You have more strength and stamina, and you can use that energy if you learn to harness that energy, that same one you get when something, something wild has happened and you need to go and rescue your child, for example. Even like, I just had this thought in my mind. What if your kid jumps in a pool and they can't swim? And you can't swim? You're going to jump in that pool and you're all of a sudden going to be a swimmer, because that anger has given you stamina and fuel. The anger at the thought of actually something happening to your child, right? So it can serve as a way to jumpstart you into action. Number 5, anger can serve as a way to change your career, my friend. If your current career is leaving you feeling wildly unsatisfied, if you are like just angry all the time, every time you go to work, you're so upset every time you go there, your colleagues make you angry, your boss makes you angry. If it's making you angry, good. That anger will push you to make some changes, will push you to looking for something different. So there are some ways, 5 ways that anger can be used for good. You just need to learn how to harness the energy as opposed to using it in a destructive way. And I know we I'm just going to take a little sidestep here. We did have a Facebook question about bursts of anger, about why do I have like these bursts of anger happening to me? I want to answer this. However, it's going to depend, because everyone's individual. So why is this happening? Ask yourself, if I'm having bursts of anger, what is triggering it? What is activating it? What is happening around me that's causing me to feel anger? And why am I feeling this way? You have to start asking yourself some questions. Is it because somebody has been consistently driving you crazy and they're making you madder and madder and madder? Maybe it's your significant other or your teenage child or your friend. You really have to ask yourself, why am I getting angry? What's underneath it? What's lying underneath of it? And am I holding on to it? Am I angry because I'm repressing something? Am I angry because I'm not communicating? Why is it I'm angry? Why is it I'm having these bursts of anger? And that's something you sort of have to ask yourself before you can actually identify the root cause. It's important to find the root of the anger so that you can understand the origin story. That's very, very important. So I would love to answer the question more broadly than that, more clearly than that. But if you have another question about that or want more information, message me. Anyways, I feel like I'm all over the place today, but that's okay. That's just how we roll around here. So let's talk about how we can express our anger mindfully. And this is actually a good segue, because we just talked about knowing your triggers, because that's number 1. Before you can really move through anger and be able to harness its power and use it for action and fuel, you need to know the triggers. You need to know your warning signs. So you need to know when your anger is coming on. You need to be able to tap into and recognize when you're starting to feel anger, because if you can identify what your triggers or your warning signs are and you can feel it coming, then you can use the tools in your toolbox to start to either address it, self-soothe, self-regulate, or you can use it as fuel. So what are some of the things for you? How are some of the ways you know you're getting angry? Maybe you're gritting your teeth. Maybe you're sweating. Maybe you're seething like, oh, I can feel it in my whole body. Maybe you have heart palpitations, uncontrollable shaking, increased tone in your voice. So you know your voice is starting to raise, so you can feel you're getting angry. You need to know your triggers. Maybe you're pacing. Maybe you're snapping. So know the triggers so that you can say, okay, this will bring you right into the next one. So if you recognize the trigger, you're like, okay, I can feel myself getting angry. Number 2 is, what is the origin or the root of the anger? Because remember, some anger is normal. But if you're starting to feel as though it's taking over your life, it's time to take stock and analyze why you might be feeling this way. Are you under pressure? Under pressure. Ding, 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 ding. You're welcome for that, by the way. Are you feeling like a victim of circumstance? Are you frustrated with where you are in life? Is somebody else to blame? What is the root? Because inevitably there is a root cause to the anger, and it's up to you to identify it. So you feel the anger, then you need to take a step back and identify, okay, what's the root cause here? Why am I feeling this way, right? From here, if you're having difficulty identifying the origin or the root, you can do number 3, which is pick up your trusty journal. Honestly, pick it up, little journal. These aren't even my notes. They're my fiance's, but you're going to write it out. Allow yourself to free flow. Set the intention. I want to understand the root cause of my anger. Set some music. Put a candle on. Get your favorite crystals. Whatever it is, set the mood for yourself and allow the feelings to come out on paper. Because not only will that help you to identify what the root of the anger is, it will also give you really good information that maybe you didn't even know you needed. Journaling is powerful because you can process a lot of stuff that you can't process if it's living in your mind all the time. So use that as a way to determine the source of the anger. And then once you have the source of the anger, you can address it through communication, but we'll get to that later. Number 4, when dealing with anger, is relaxation techniques. And I mean, don't roll your eyes at me. Don't do it. If you can hear my stomach growling, I'm sorry. My microphone's near my stomach. I'm getting hungry. Simple tools: deep breathing, grounding into the ground, feeling your feet rooted into the ground, naming how it feels for your arms to be on your chairs, on your seat. Use these techniques. Maybe it's a mantra. Maybe it's I'm okay. I am okay. Things are going to be okay. And just self-soothing in that way. Do something that feels good to you, because this is going to support you in taking the edge off that anger and keep you from snapping and allow you a moment to find the logic, to be able to ask the deeper questions. So as soon as you start to feel that tension build, because you've now identified your triggers or your warning signs, call on your tools, whatever it is that works for you. You can think of imagery, a really wonderful memory. Think of your children being born. Think of water. Think of nature. Think of anything to be able to use relaxing images in your favor. Whew! I think I need a drink of water. Perrier. Anyone else like Perrier? It's my favorite, lemon kind. Number 5, reframe your thinking. And if you've been around here for a while, you know how much I love a reframe, right? I even wrote down my notes. You know this is my favorite. So here's what happens when you get angry. And let me know if you agree. When you get angry, you start thinking everything sucks. This stinks. This is terrible. Everything is ruined. My day is ruined. This person ruined my day. How dare they? This situation is awful. That's what starts to happen when you get angry. And you can't control that. It's just happening. It's happening, and you can very quickly spiral out of control. So if you reframe, because you recognize you're getting angry, you're starting to say all these negative things, if you can catch yourself and say, okay, you know what, self? Hold on, hold your horses. This is frustrating. I am upset in this moment. I am. It's okay that I'm upset. This situation isn't the best, but I can move through this, right? Or alternatively, you can ask yourself, once you've reframed, say, how will anger support me in navigating this situation? How is anger going to help me get out of this, or is anger going to hinder the situation? You need to ask yourself that question first too, because as we said, anger can be used as fuel. So is it going to force you into action, taking action, or is it just going to exacerbate the situation, dumping fuel on the fire? Right? So you need to ask yourself that question, especially if you're in an argument with somebody back and forth and you can feel yourself getting angry and you know it's because they're saying dumb stuff and you know they're in the wrong. If you keep getting angry and keep getting angry and yelling at them and you're just yelling at each other, is that going to help anything? Or do you need to take a step back and be like, okay, I'm angry. The situation is making me angry. How can I effectively communicate my point? And how can I listen to their point and not allow us to escalate and escalate and escalate and escalate, right? And with this comes, remember you're in control of your own behavior. That is the only thing you have control of. If you're in an argument with someone, you can't control them. They can fly off the handle. They can say all kinds of nasty things. They can do all the stuff to make you angry, but only you have control over you. So you can choose to get in the ring with that person and be like, yeah, I'm angry too. And you're angry and we're yelling at each other. Angry, angry, angry. Or you can be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't want to be in this spot of anger. I'm going to control my behavior. I'm not going to allow myself to get to that point. I'm going to take stock. I'm going to listen. And then I'm going to decide, after carefully hearing the other person out, how I'm going to respond. But it's not going to be responding with anger. And keep in mind too, that when we're angry, all logic goes out the window. All of it. It's like, bye-bye logic. I'll see you later. There is no logic anymore when you're angry. Right? So using reframing techniques such as this, like, it's going to be okay. I'm upset in the moment, knowing that you're in control of your own self, you're in control of your own body and your own behavior. Knowing that allows you to become logical in your own mind, if that makes sense. You start to logic with yourself. So it will keep you from becoming more and more angry. number 6, finding solutions. Another thing I love solutions because anger tends to keep us stuck in problems. And as we said, anger tends to be rooted in something problematic. That's the root of anger. We don't just get angry for nothing. We get angry because something has become problematic in our life and it feels outside of our control. That's why we're getting angry, because as human beings, we want to control things. We want to control things more than anything else, but not everything is within our control. So, and when this happens, sometimes the problem is in your subconscious, which is why we want to rely on our journal, which we had talked about, right? We want to understand the root of the anger so that we can start being proactive in solutions. How can I make this problem that's causing me anger better? And it can be very small steps. For example, if you have a teenage son that is doing absolutely nothing around the house, nothing at all, he's a slob, he leaves his socks everywhere, he leaves all the cupboards open, he leaves his dirty towels all over the place, and it makes you angry, the root of that problem might be I feel disrespected because I do whatever I can to keep my house clean, to make sure everything looks nice, to provide for them. And all I want is a little bit of respect. And I feel disrespected by my teenage son. And it's making me angry. And he's not listening to me, right? What is one small solution that you can come up with that will empower your teen son and make you feel better? And this is kind of how you need to think. Like, is it a conversation? Is it a heart to heart? Is it a saying like, listen, Michael, I feel disrespected when you leave your socks all over the house. Do you think you can at least clean up your socks at the very least? Is there something small that will help to mitigate your anger because you've communicated it and you're putting a solution into place and you're empowering the teenage son as opposed to just getting angry and yelling at each other and allowing it to fester? Think of solutions to address the root problem of the anger. Ooh. Only a few more, guys, and we'll be closing off. Number 7 is communicate instead of repress. Because when we get angry, here's what happens. Our brain starts to go a little bit off its rocker. Our brain starts to think up all kinds of things. It starts to exacerbate the situation. In fact, essentially, it makes a mountain out of a molehill. And we start to go down a rabbit hole and we start to think, oh, this, that, this person thinks that. And we make up stuff in our head. So remember, the mind is a tricky place. Right? So if we can stay calm, cool, collected, if we can communicate effectively with the person or the situation or whatever it is that's making us angry, if we can stay calm, cool, and collected because we have control over our own selves, then we can communicate more effectively and we can have a back and forth. Maybe it's the person that's making us angry and really understand what's underlying here and figure out what is actually in our head and what is real. But we'll only get there through communication. Okay. Look at this. Angie says, I now recognize when I get triggered, I stand back and ask why. I love that I can silence it now. Right? So now, and for Angie, if she recognizes she's getting angry and she feels that coming on, she can now say, I can stand back and say, I feel like I'm getting triggered. I can feel like I'm getting angry. Why am I getting angry? I can ask myself that question. And when you ask yourself that question, you can get to the root of it. And when you get to the root of it, then you can begin to communicate more effectively. Angel says, so happy your mom showed me your group. Oh, that's fun. My mom was recently with Angela because she got married and I guess she showed her my stuff. Thanks, Mom. But I'm happy you're getting so much out of it. That makes my heart happy. So number 8, do something different. We have talked about this before because when you're angry and you stay in the same environment, you just keep getting angrier and angrier and angrier. Sometimes you need to get up, take a walk, go to a different room, go do something with the dishes, throw the laundry on, do something different. Don't sit in that spot and fester, because that will only exacerbate the problem. And finally, number 9, if anger is a problem for you, if it is a problem so deeply for you and you can't get over it and none of these tips have worked, don't be afraid to seek support. So often we feel like if we need support from somebody else, from a counselor or from a therapist or from a coach, whatever it is, that's bad. When really in actual fact, gaining support, seeking support to move through some of this stuff so that you can become a better, more compassionate, more graceful, a person that has more gratitude, compassion for other people. That is the benefit of working with somebody, because sometimes you just can't do it on your own. So if anger is something that you are struggling with, if anger is something that you just cannot seem to get over on your own, please reach out. Let's have a discussion about it. Maybe you and I working together in my Purposeful Insight program is a really, really great fit. And I would love to tell you more about it, but it starts with you. So here's the invitation. Reach out to me and let me know if this is something I can support you with. Angel says, when I feel triggered, I tell my breath. Oh yeah, I talk to my breath by going 1, 2, 3 by walking away, and I come and communicate as to why I was angry to my children and husband. That's a great one, Angel. We take a breath, 1, 2, 3, and then communicate, because if you allow yourself to keep spiraling, it will continue to do so. So with that, if there are any other questions, if you're catching this on the replay and I haven't answered your question that you left in the Facebook group, or if you have further questions about how you can transmute your anger, please leave them in the comments below. As I said, I will drop the link to the Fear Live below as well too, so that you can access that. And of course, if you have any questions, if you need support, please reach out to me. I am absolutely here for you. And with that, I hope you have a lovely afternoon, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.